Picture this, you're one of the best strikers in the world, racking up numbers at the same level of Messi and Ronaldo, your heading is unmatched, your reading of the game, perfect. But luck, fate, God, whatever you want to call it, simply isn't on your side. Your efforts go unnoticed, the people you love don't love you back, and the more your heart breaks, the lower you sink. Into depression, into addiction, and ultimately, into oblivion. More than 20 years have passed since you lost your touch, and most football fans don't even remember your name, but today, that is going to change. Because I'm about to tell you all the story of Mário Jardel, the greatest striker that never was. Jardel followed the typical Brazilian player route. He played really well in his local club Ferroviário until he got noticed by Vasco da Gama. He evolved there, but his 36 goals across his first 3 pro seasons didn't impress the people in the club, and in 1995, Jardel moved to Porto Alegre to play for Gremio. You see, Gremio had a plan, a project if you will, to conquer everything and everyone. They didn't want to be the best in Brazil, they wanted to be the best in the continent, and if they could, they would be the best in the world. And to do so, Gremio assembled a good squad led by one of the best Brazilian coaches of all time, Luís Filipe Scolari. But it would be the partnership of Paulo Nunes and Mário Jardel that truly made the difference. Across 2 seasons, Jardel won everything he could for Gremio. The Libertadores, the Recopa Sul-Americana, and he was also a part of the squad who won the Brazilian League. But while everything was going well on the pitch, in his personal life, everything was about to collapse. Jardel was always a naive boy, very religious, but when anyone called him to go out at night, he would be there in a heartbeat. And as you'd expect, he met many women across several nightclubs, but there was one girl that completely rocked his world. She was a brunette with green eyes who had already posed for Playboy, one of those women that we all know that we shouldn't get too close with, but Jardel couldn't care less. He quickly married her, had kids, and at first sight, they looked happy. But little did he know that behind his back, his wife Karen was cheating on him. It happened multiple times, everyone knew and commented about it, but Jardel wouldn't believe it. Until one day, he made up that he had to go on a trip, only to then return home and find the love of his life in bed with another man. Jardel was shell-shocked, but he didn't break up with her. She promised it wouldn't happen again, and the couple decided to get away from that environment, moving to Europe to play for Porto. And that's when the world discovers Super Mário Jardel. The stakes were higher, the opposition tougher, but Jardel didn't slow down by any means. He flew over the defenders like it was nothing, and he always had a sense for where the ball would drop. He scored goals after goals, it didn't make a difference if it was a small team, and it damn sure didn't matter if it was a big team. At that point, he was easily top 2 in the world, and he sure as hell wasn't number 2. Don't believe me? From 1996 to 2000, Jardel played in 170 matches for Porto and scored 168 goals. That's an impressive tally that would absolutely guarantee a place in Brazil's World Cup squad in 1998, right? Wrong. It was obvious that Ronaldo was ahead of Jardel in the pecking order because he was simply put the best player in the world. But selecting Edmundo, who had only been playing in Europe for a couple of months and he wasn't even doing that well, and Bebeto, who was already past his prime, ahead of Jardel, is perhaps one of the most unfair calls in football history. Something that would ultimately cost Brazil the World Cup. I mean, Ronaldo started in the final after having a seizure. That's how much Mario Zagallo trusted his other strikers. Trust me, Prime Jardel would have got the job done against France, and right now, Brazil would be celebrated as the only nation to win the World Cup 3 times in a row. But that's besides the point. The harsh reality is that omission was a huge blow to Jardel's confidence, and he started falling into some bad habits. He started partying more, taking drugs, and as a consequence, his fragile relationship began crumbling. Porto knew all about it and actually helped him control his bad habits. It's not that he quit, but he kept his binges to the times where he wasn't playing, and on the field, nothing changed. But then, Galatasaray came calling. In the late 90s, Gala was one of the most exciting sides in Europe. They had dominated the Turkish league and now looked to make history in Europe. So they broke the bank and brought in Jardel for 17 million euros, which is still to this day their most expensive transfer ever. And he certainly delivered, scoring their triumph over Real Madrid for the UEFA Super Cup and 5 goals in his absolute debut. He would finish the season with 34 goals in 42 matches, but his drug binges weren't tolerated and Galatasaray preferred to get rid of him. But Jardel remained hopeful. In 1 year, he would have his World Cup dreams fulfilled and all of his suffering would be worth it. So in a shock move, Jardel signed with Porto rival Sporting Clube Portugal and proceeded to have perhaps his best season ever. Registering 64 goal contributions across 42 matches, Jardel was a top goal scorer in Europe and won his new club the league and the cup. surely would be in the World Cup squad this time. Ronaldo was not 100% fit, Scolari, the coach who launched his career, was the nation's manager, everything aligned for him, but once again, his dreams were crushed, as Scolari picked Ronaldo, Edilson, a striker who had scored 7 goals that year in Japan, and Luizão, a guy who had an impressive tally of 3 goals in 9 matches in Brazil. The day when Scolari announced the squad was the 2nd of May 2002. That date was also the one that marked the death of Jardel as we knew him. He was only 28 years old, but his fire had simply run out. Everything he achieved in his career was with a goal in mind, to wear the iconic yellow shirt and lift a World Cup way above his head with his wife on his side. He wanted to inspire every kid from Fortaleza that no matter how stacked the odds were against them, if they were truly great, they would conquer every dream that they could possibly imagine. That was the hope that kept the fire alive, that made him ignore the multiple times he was cheated on, his mental health, and the constant undermining he suffered. But now that hope was gone, Jardel fell into a massive hole. His wife divorced him, he couldn't see his kids, and to be honest, I'm not surprised since he was practically a zombie at that point. At the start of the 2002-2003 season, he wasn't even fit enough to play for Sporting. And to paint a better picture of his downfall, I'll just tell you this. In the previous season, Jardel had scored 55 goals. In this one, he dropped to 12. His relationship with the club fell apart as he felt that Sporting were blocking a potential move to Barcelona. But in reality, that was just paranoia caused by his bad friends and excessive usage. He moved to Bolton in order to bounce back, but once again, he wasn't fit enough to help the team, and 6 months later, he was already being loaned out to Ancona in Serie A. However, his fitness issues persisted. From 2004 until 2011, Jardel would play with 11 different clubs across the lower leagues of South America, Europe, and even Oceania. But that wasn't Super Mario, that was a broken man desperately trying to clear his image and have one last good moment before finally retiring. He never did, and after failing to play in a single match in 2011, he retired while under contract with Rio Negro, a team from Brazil's regional divisions. Nowadays, he appears to be doing better. He's no longer consuming and acts as a spokesperson for several clubs he represented throughout his career. Porto, Gremio, Galatasaray, even Sporting. All their fans love him because they saw up close how great he was. They don't judge him for his mistakes, they celebrate the amazing eras their clubs lived because of Jardel, and I think the football world should give him a bit more praise than what he currently receives. Because if he was playing this era, I can guarantee you no Brazilian striker would rank above him. Thank you for watching until the end. If you liked this video, I'm sure you'll be interested in the story of the Champions League hero who ruined his career over his wife. I'll see you there.